Asherah is a name that often raises questions and curiosity in the study of the Bible. Who was she, and why does she appear in various biblical narratives? Asherah is known as a mother goddess worshipped in the ancient Near East, often associated with fertility and motherhood. In the Bible, she is frequently mentioned in connection with idolatry, a practice that angered God and led to many warnings and punishments for the people of Israel. Asherah was not just a figure of myth or legend, but was actively worshipped by many during the times of the Old Testament. Her image was often represented as a sacred tree or pole, sometimes called an Asherah pole. This pole was used in various rituals and was considered a symbol of her presence. The worship of Asherah was particularly prominent among the Canaanites, who were neighbors of the Israelites. The Israelites, despite being chosen by God and given clear instructions to worship only Him, often fell into the temptation of following the practices of the surrounding nations, including the worship of Asherah. But what exactly did this worship involve, and why was it so enticing to the Israelites? The worship of Asherah was closely tied to the fertility of the land and the people. In an agricultural society where the success of crops and livestock was essential for survival, the appeal of a goddess who promised fertility and abundance was strong. The rituals associated with Asherah often involved offerings and ceremonies intended to ensure prosperity and protection. However, these practices were strictly forbidden by God, who commanded the Israelites to tear down the Asherah poles and any other symbols of idolatry. The worship of Asherah was not just a minor issue, but became a significant stumbling block for the Israelites. Kings and leaders who followed God's commands often led campaigns to destroy the Asherah poles and cleanse the land of idolatry. For example, King Josiah of Judah led a major reform, tearing down the Asherah poles and other idols in a bid to return the nation to the worship of the Lord alone. Despite these efforts, the worship of Asherah persisted at various times, revealing the deep-rooted nature of this idolatry. So where did Asherah come from, and why did her worship persist for so long? Asherah's origins can be traced back to ancient Canaanite religion, where she was considered the consort of the god El and later Baal, another figure often mentioned in the Bible as a rival to God. The persistence of Asherah worship among the Israelites can be attributed to the influence of the surrounding cultures and the constant temptation to blend their worship of God with the practices of other nations. This syncretism, or blending of religious practices, was something God repeatedly warned against, emphasizing the need for His people to remain pure and devoted to Him alone. One of the most significant reasons why the worship of Asherah was so dangerous was that it represented a direct challenge to the exclusive worship of God. The Lord is a jealous God, as the Bible often reminds us, and the worship of other gods, including Asherah, was seen as a betrayal of the covenant relationship between God and His people. This betrayal often led to dire consequences, including military defeats, famine, and exile, as the people of Israel experienced the wrath of God for their disobedience. When did the worship of Asherah come to an end? While the Bible records various efforts to eradicate the worship of Asherah, it was not until the Babylonian exile that this form of idolatry was finally rooted out among the Israelites. The destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and the subsequent exile served as a turning point, leading the Jewish people to a renewed focus on the worship of the Lord alone. By the time of the return from exile and the rebuilding of the temple, the worship of Asherah and other foreign gods had largely disappeared from Jewish religious life.